Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes. We're here. We're live. It's a Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm eating some wine gums. That's why I'm chopping my mouth as I'm doing the intro. We're here. We're live. It's a Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We're back again, 2 in 1 week. And we got another show tomorrow, actually. Is it tomorrow? No, Friday. We got another one on Friday, which I'll drop some information about later on. But the good man, Dino, is back with us. Dino, first things first, man. Happy New Year. I haven't seen you in this medium since 2021. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Pleasure to be here. It's a new year, new energy. Let's go. We're hoping we can get a lot more cricket this year. Always a pleasure to be here on the pod. Always a pleasure to interact. And man, Marshall, you've been working overtime, man. The pod has been blowing up. I mean, the content just keeps coming and I love it, man. It's just so good to listen to and a pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, before we get into today's show, I just want to, again, just thank everybody who came through on the call-in show. What day did we do it? Monday. I think it was Monday. Listen, I can't say enough. Santoki and I were talking about it. We loved that, man. And you know why we loved it? Because it was about you lot. It weren't even about us. And if you can allow me to blow the Caribbean Cricket Podcast trumpet just a tiny bit, the West Indies is crying out for something like that. A genuine kind of cricket fan show, which isn't specific to one country, isn't specific to one island, and it's just getting fans from all around the diaspora, different countries and islands, just all giving their opinions and views. You saw West Indies cricket jumped in on it as well to share their opinions. So thank you everyone who got involved in that. And we're going to be looking at doing some more of those and trying to come up with a strategy. So yeah, big up everyone who's in the chat live today. Thank you for joining us. Share this with people who you know might be free now and don't realize that we're doing this. Even if they can't be live now, share it with them after the show. Anybody who's watching this on a go again because you weren't able to join us, thank you for joining us, like in the future. Yeah, what we're doing today. Sorry, I'm sorting out the lights here. What we're doing today is listen. In the same way how we got Courtney on at the start of 2022, listen, we got 2 World Cups at the beginning of this year. We got the Women's World Cup in March, but more pressingly, we've got the West Indies Under-19 World Cup starting literally in a few days. And Dino and myself were just chatting in the background saying, well, we need to do something about this. Dino is going to be, or is in, I should say, Trinidad, so we'll be watching group. I can't even remember which group you've got, Dino.
The group with India.
Yeah. Yes. So Dino will hopefully be present at some of the, unfortunately not the West Indies games, because they're in, I think, St. Kitts and Guyana. But there are games in Trinidad. So we're going to try and do some content with Dino around what's going on at the Under-19 World Cup, so you lot can get a feel for what's going on the ground, apart from just watching the games itself. But yeah, anyways, that's a long intro. What Dino and I said is, come, let's do something on the West Indies team specifically. Because let's be honest, people, who's doing the content? Where are you reading about it? Because I can't see nothing. Other than the official West Indies channels dropping a few interviews and pieces here and there, no one's not writing anything. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm not seeing much in regional newspapers about the team or any kind of in-depth analysis. So you know that meant Dino had to come through, because if there's one person I can trust in the Caribbean to go in on the details and the info and give the people what they need, it's of course Dino. So Dino, let's chop it up. Let's get straight into it. But where I want you to start, Dino, because I'd like to think most of the people who watch this know by now your background. But if they don't know, you were part of the 2016 backroom staff, that team that won. That team has birthed Hetmeyer, that team has birthed Alzari, it's birthed Chamar Holder, it's birthed Old Dean Smith, it's birthed Kemo Paul. Now, not all of them have gone on to fully establish themselves, but the point is they're about. they're in the mix. Gooley might still come through. Casey Carty might still come through. There was a lot in that team, so they didn't. I think when we look back at 2016, I don't think fans fully understand how many players have come through from that side, not fully established, but have come through from the side to touch. Springer, Obed McCoy. I know he got injured, but Obed McCoy. So a lot of those players came through. So what I said to Dino is, first, let's start by looking back at 2016 and looking at what were the key ingredients that led to that successful tournament. Was it as simplistic as we just had a good crop of players, or were there certain certain elements put into the development of that squad and the preparation of that squad that led to the victory? Dino, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, Marshall, for that intro. And I'll have the chat before I get started. I have the chat going, so I'm paying attention. Shout out to everyone in the chat, man. Get your questions in. I appreciate you for being here. I know with the under-19s especially, there's not a lot of info around, like Marshall said. So I've been digging, and boy, I've been sweating trying to find this information, but it's out there. And so let's go back to the 2016, man. Marshall, with that team right now, you look at that 15-man squad. If you say 16, Obed got injured. You look at that squad. The list is who didn't make it. It's like everyone progressed from that group, and there's just maybe one or two guys whose names have not gone through the system. And even still, I'm sure they're in their territories playing cricket, at least at a club level. That's a couple of guys who didn't come through. That 2016 group, a lot of them came through because we won. They have to say because we won. We'll get into why we won, but they came through because we won, and there was this increased impetus. It was a historic victory, the first one ever for the West Indies. So that gave a whole renewed enthusiasm to the West Indies and a renewed focus on those guys, on ensuring those champion guys got through. Maybe the focus was not like that before, because when I came in, it would have been 2015. So I would not have been in the system long, maybe just the 1 year. What I met there and in saying what made it successful was a system run by Graham West, a guy who would have worked for the first time. He would have been the head coach. And there's Dwayne Gill was the manager. I have to shout out the staff. Corey Collymore, probably one of his earliest stints as a coach, was there as well. The physio, Kevin Williams. And these guys I came in to the staff maybe 1 year late in a 2-year cycle. So these guys already had a clear vision, a clear pathway. I had never seen or heard anything like this, right? These guys were like, listen, we've played 4 games in 2 years, our under-19 guys.
The current team. Wait,
no, the 2016
team.
Played leading up to that World Cup, I played 4 games. Right. And when I say games, I mean official youth ODIs. Maybe they played practice games and whatever. Right. But I'm talking about real competition. That would have been 4. There was only probably 1 team in that tournament that played less than us. So saying that we went into that tournament underprepared. But what I saw was that Graham West, I had never seen this in the Caribbean before. His approach and the way he was building the team and getting the youths together. I saw 10 fast bowlers who could have made that. O'Shane didn't make the cut. A couple other guys didn't make the cut. There were 10 top fast bowlers. They were good spinners. They were batsmen improving every day. And I think he put a structure in place that even before that World Cup, I think the guys knew their roles very well. Yes, the raw materials there was actually very good. The guys just lacked playing time. They lacked experience. And as we mentioned on this show, they lacked, we get guys who need a lot of coaching coming into the under-19. That being said, with the structure that these guys had, these guys identified exactly where the guys needed to improve and worked on those things specifically going forward, and every guy improved. It was a very coordinated effort that got that going by the staff. Yes, the players won it. The players had the belief and the unity as a unit, but they were taking information and they were improving day in, day out on the go. And I think that is possible because they had come through with all the raw materials. Most of the guys were fit. I know Pope comes to mind, but most of the guys were extremely fit with the raw materials they had in. And yes, the physio might say, nah, you're lying. They weren't all fit. But I think in comparison to what we were accustomed to, they were a bit ahead of most of the youths we see that group. Physically, they were bigger, they were stronger, and the skill set, they were multifaceted. We had a lot of all rounders. So that's with the 2016 group. Even before, listen, we didn't go into a World Cup saying that we would win the World Cup. We were just saying as long as these guys can continue this improvement path that they're on, that we've put them on, we'll be happy with that. And that's what happened. I know it's a bit long-winded, but that's what happened in the World Cup. And each person played their role in having this together. And then that became a 2-year cycle and a structure that we've continued going till where we are today.
Out of interest, Dino, and I don't even know if it's possible to say, because maybe too much time has gone and hindsight will play a role, or it's too easy to say now. But at the time when you were there with the squad, who was the standout player to you? Was it Hetmeyer? Was it Old Dean Smith? Was it Chamar or Alzari? Like, who was, when you were there, who was the person you were watching and going, this person's going to play for West Indies soon, like can make the jump soon?
Yeah, definitely Alzari from the get-go. Physically, he was there. I was a bit surprised O'Shane didn't make the cut at that time, because when you see this towering young guy that's twice the size of other guys at that age, you're like, wow, we need this guy in this team. He didn't make the cut. Alzari did. And you just knew when you saw him bowl in competitive games, it's like, this guy has got it. It's almost like when you saw Seals for the first time, you're like, all right, we know what we're seeing here. And, you know, the skipper Hetmeyer was coming in as like almost taunted as a prodigy at the time. They were saying this guy can bat. I had hardly seen him. I hadn't been around the U tournaments at that time. And he failed a lot when it came in. But when he did perform, it's kind of like his career right now, isn't it? When he did perform, you saw brilliance there, right? And even in that tournament, he failed for the majority of the tournament. But coming to the end, he put in a couple 50s or a couple knocks that won us the games. So Hetmeyer and Alzari, yes, they've come through, but everyone else put their hand up as well, you know. But those two for sure, we were like, we have some runs on the board with Hetty, and we have Alzari. We're gonna get early wickets.
So I mean, that's 2016. Obviously, people in the chat, remember, you can throw anything in at any point. I know you are throwing things in, but of course, everyone who's joined in the live today, you've joined because ultimately you want us to go into the 2022 squad and the World Cup squad. And I'm gonna be honest from the get-go. The most I know about this team is because they came over to England. Which part of the pandemic was it? Was it 21 or was it 20? I can't even remember which year it was. What year it was now?
That was this year, 21. Maybe
do you know what?
August.
Yeah, in the pandemic, it feels like like there's been 10 years in the pandemic, so it feels like you don't even know what's gone on. But they came over, and I had many friends go and watch some of the games that they played, and the names that I kept hearing from the people who went to watch those games were saying, I think it was 6 we played, 6 ODIs or something like that. I heard Bishop's name. I heard Nandu's name. There was a couple of fast bowlers whose names now escape me that people were talking about. But, I mean, obviously England beat us. I think it was 4-2 in the end, 4-1, 4-2, something like that in the end. And the results going into this 2022 World Cup, if you take the results at face value, it doesn't suggest that we're challengers for this tournament, if you're going to just take things at face value. But this is half the reason why I wanted Dino on, because I think we've got to go deeper. Sorry, people. I think we've got to go a bit deeper than just looking at, well, this is what the build-up results say, so this is what's going to happen in the tournament. It's still a World Cup at the end of the day. Different islands have been talking about different players. In fact, I haven't even mentioned Akeem. I know that there's a lot written about his potential. And whether he'll fire. Obviously, he's a captain as well. But first things first, let's bring the team up, because some of you will be like, who's even in the squad? So this is the squad that has been named, and these are the names you need to be looking out for. So Akeem Auguste, Giovante, I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce some of these names right. Depiazza, I've probably said that wrong. Anaji Amori, Teddy Bishop, Carlon Bowen Tuckett, Jaden Carmichael, McKenny Clark, Rivaldo Clark, Jordan Johnson, Johan Lane, Anderson, Mahace, Matthew Nandu, is it Shakiri? I don't even know. No, Shakiri Paris, Shiva Sankar, and Isaiah Thorne. That's the squad. Now, just going into it in a bit more detail, because some of you even will be like, "Who does what?" So,
yeah, I got that. I got you covered on that.
In that case, I won't even say it then because I'm going to let Dino.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Dino go into it. But like I say, the standout names based on who's been written about the most, and I'm hoping some of you who are in the chat are from the different islands that some of these players come from. And actually, there's a lot of players from the quote unquote smaller islands in this team, which I'm happy about. I'm glad because at the end of the day, West Indies is West Indies. We shouldn't be seeing a squad which is dominated by X number of players from Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad, or Jamaica. I want to believe that this is the best squad from across the Caribbean, as opposed to just looking at the big countries and islands and who's coming from them. But like I say, the names that I've definitely heard a lot about: Akeem, Teddy, Matthew Nandu. There was a feature on Rivaldo Clark actually during one of the T20s in the summer. There was a feature on him on TV. I've heard a bit about Isaiah Thorne as well. But Dino, I'll leave this on the screen for now, just so that people have the reference point to the squad. Where do you want to start with this?
All right, let me go. Like I've done the research, right? I've looked at what these guys have done over the last 2 years, and let me just start there, right? Because they played in England. They went to England earlier this year. Like Marshall said, 4-2, right? It wasn't the exact team that we see here, but changes happened between then. Then we had South Africa come to the Caribbean in St. Vincent, and that series was 2-2. And now we saw the warm-up games where we lost to India and South Africa. So I'm not counting the warm-up games, but that means we lost. We're lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win. We 4-2 in England, 2-2 South Africa came here. So what we saw in England shall I break the names down, the captains first, or I want to say what they did in England and stuff.
Yeah, no, go for it, Dino.
Yeah,
listen, people appreciate the detail, man.
When you looked at it in England, man, they changed. Since then, they've changed the opener, right? Looking at that list, if you start with the batting, Matthew Nandu is the cemented opener on that team. He's going to be opening in the World Cup. I hope the guys who are betting, you guys will give me some money because I don't bet. All right, but put your money on Matthew Nandu opening for West Indies in the World Cup. He's going to be the man. The concern I have is that the openers from his opening partner, they tried different partners in the England series, and both of those partners are now not in the squad. They've opened with Paris. Shakiri Paris has opened in the warm-up games. In this game today, they opened with Jordan Johnson. So now I'm concerned, right? So now before I even go any further, I'm saying, okay, so Nandu's opening, but who is the opener then? Is it Paris? They dropped the previous two openers. They brought Paris in. He's opened in the first game, Johnson in the second. I'm concerned. All right. I'll move forward. But in England, that was the concern. We did not put up big scores. The games that we won, we put 230 plus on the board. We have never done that since. This team has not put 230 on the board. Has only done it twice in their 10 games. And that's the concern, right? And that's the games that we won against England when we put 241 and 231 on the board. So that's the concern. When we went to South Africa, the pit, no one made over 150. South Africa couldn't make 150. We couldn't make 150. I'm just going to assume that the pitches there were absolutely horrible. And then now I have to damn West Indies for sending our youths to develop on pitches that nobody can bat on, right? So, but at least the guys get games in. That's most important, right? I don't want to harp on those things. So throughout this whole thing, our team has not made 230. So before I go into the players, my concern here is now can we make 230 based on what I've seen going in, right? And I'll get to the Pacers after. So let's go through the list. I know, Marshall, I might take a bit long, but...
No, listen. And by the way, everyone, as Dino's going through, any questions, throw them in. Go on, Dino.
Yeah. Okay, so the captain, Akeem August. Is that how we pronounce it? Right-hand bat, he bowls leg spin. That's what I'm told. I haven't seen much of him. Bats in the middle order. He's the captain. He's been around the youth system. So is he a left-hand bat? No. Most of the team, the batting order, are right-handers except Nandu. Johnson, and one other guy is a left-hander. I can't remember. So that's a concern in the team
No, it
as
is
well. So
Akeem.
yeah,
Akeem's left-handed.
right. So Akeem. So that's three left-handers. Akeem is your middle order guy. He bats in the middle order as captain, 4, 5, 6, wherever he needs to be. Giovante Depizia. Oh man, I'm gonna get murdered on this. But yeah, vice captain bats with 4, 5, 6 in that same area. Right. These two guys in the middle order, the captain and the vice captain, over the games, we've seen these guys get starts, 30s, 20s, 30s, like that. Right. They failed on a few occasions, but they've held up the middle order. They've been part of a few partnerships. So that's what we're expecting from these two guys. It seems to me that Giovante might be the guy who could accelerate and maybe be a finisher type. I would assume the captain can do that as well. So that's the roles that we expect these two guys to play. We expect them to play every game in the middle order of the batting. All right. We'll just go down to Armory from Nevis. Right hand bat, right hand off spinner. So I believe he's being used more as an off spinner, right? So if he's an all rounder, he'll be a bowling all rounder. That's what I see. So he's the off spin option in that regard. Teddy Bishop, the number 3, the number 4, the where we've seen as the main guy on the team. Teddy Bishop has put up 100 in England. He's had 97. He's had 50s. So this is the guy, to score 133 and 97 back to back in England against anyone, that tells you there's some talent there. And he has been around the previous group, the previous under 19 group. He has been training since that. He didn't make the cut then, probably knowing that in the future he would make the cut now or be a main guy in this one. So
let me just jump in there for a second,
sure.
Dino, because actually that links into a point I wanted to raise about the 2016 lot. Did it benefit? I know you jumped into the setup from 2015, but do you think there was any benefit for the players who, because everyone always forgets that by the time Hetmeyer played in that 2016 World Cup, he was 19. He'd already been about. So did you see any difference between the players that had, I guess, previous under 19 experience versus kind of the younger lot who came in the 2016 edition?
Oh yeah, definitely. Those guys who had, I think Hetty had a first-class game under his belt or not, he probably had some US dollars in his pocket more than the other guys at the time. So there was a big difference. Once you rub shoulders, and you will hear that going on through this World Cup about how much rubbing shoulders with the senior team means to these guys, and how much the influence of senior players and their input, how much it affects them at their age. At this age, their mind is like a sponge. They're just absorbing information right now. And really the staff's job is to just channel it in the right direction. So any positive things, motivational things, or being part of a coaching setup with players that can share information, I think that's always going to be key. Yeah, and those guys would have been a step ahead, like you said, because of their experience. Definitely, Marshall.
100. So yeah, so Teddy Bishop was the last, but yeah, the main that I think is, as you say, the main guy that you would expect to put some runs on.
Yeah. Should I go ahead?
With, Karen.
Carlon Bowen Tuckett, we saw got a 50 right in the warm-up game, did he? I don't want to say the wrong thing. So he's just come into. He was not in the England series. He came in for the South Africa series. He's a wicket keeper as far as I know, right-hand bat. But I saw that he was bowling in the warm-up game scorecard. So, this is how the information, we don't even know what happens. The information is not necessary. What happened, Marshall, before I continue? Carlton will be that guy in a middle order role. All right. Yeah. If he does bowl or not, I think he is the backup keeper with Rivaldo Clark as the main keeper. That's my understanding. So Bowen Tuckett is the backup keeper who bats in the middle overs, and he's put up a 50 in the warm-up game. Does that mean that he's called a spot? So those are the little tricky stuff happening in there. But I just wanted to, before we go forward, and then you say preparation, these guys would not have had domestic under 19 seasons. Every single under 19 would have had that before. So, but they've had 10 games plus. They've had a couple series. They've got the warm-ups. They had the trial game franchise matches. And this is something I want to talk about, the preparation. It hasn't been ideal, but that doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't not necessarily a bad thing. When you look at Australia hasn't played any matches in 2 years in our group. Scotland hasn't played any matches, but Sri Lanka, they've been playing nonstop. So how is that going to work out in preparation? We'll come back to that because I'll just finish this off here with Jaden Carmichael. He's bowled a lot. He's a left-arm orthodox. He's been used as a bowling all-rounder again. Floyd Reefer himself in the interviews I've seen has said a lot of his players are all-rounders, and he's happy about that. He's got bowlers who can bat and batsmen who can bowl, right? So, Teddy Bishop is a straight out and out batting. You're probably your best batsman at number 3, 4. Bowen Tuckett, all-rounder, wicket-keeping backup. Carmichael, left-arm orthodox bowling all-rounder. We got McKenny Clark from St. Lucia, who's been used a lot as a pacer. Not necessarily opening the bowling, but he's been used often. That's why he's there in the team, right? Rivaldo Clark, wicketkeeper. Jordan Johnson, left-hand bat, recently come in. We saw him use the open bat today, which was very surprising because he's a middle-order batsman in the same role as Teddy Bishop, right? That's where we've seen him used. Johan Lane, we've heard a lot about him. This guy is doing wonders at the top. I've heard Ambrose talk about his pace is up. I've heard Floyd Reefer talk about his accuracy. So this guy, and he's been taking wickets, right? You look at even in India, he got 2 in the power play. I mean, that's incredible for Indian batsmen to get that as a young guy on these pitches here in the Caribbean. So, and he's been so consistently churning it out. He's from Barbados. He's played the under 15s only. These guys would have missed some seasons, but this guy, on paper, statistically, this is the guy. This is our guy, right? Johan Lane. All right. We'll go forward to Mahes, who this is the all-rounder who's going to start, definitely. All right. Did we lose Marshall or did I get cut off? So this is the all-rounder that's going to start. All right. Mahes is from Trinidad, and he has been. Marshall, you're back. All right.
Yeah, sorry, that was my mistake. People, carry on.
So Mahes has been the left-arm orthodox that has been delivering. He's kept it tight and he's struck with getting wickets. Right. So Mahes, again, bowling all-rounder from what I've seen. All right, from Trinidad. Matthew Nandu, for me, is one of the stars in the making from what I've seen of this guy. This guy is putting up scores at the top of the order, and he's bowling a handy spin in the middle overs that can keep it tight. If I was playing fantasy cricket, and you guys that do, this is the guy you want on your fantasy cricket team, all right? He is going to be, West Indies are going to depend on this guy at the top. They might have to come in and fill in some overs in the middle. In this tournament, bowling spin in the middle overs are going to be key in the West Indies. I'm sorry to tell all the teams that, but now you know, if you didn't know before. It's interesting to know how prepared teams are. I'm really keen to see how the other teams are prepared. And I do have some insight from the guys. I know there's guys from South Africa watching, and other guys will be watching this video. There are other analysts here in the Caribbean right now. And there's a couple of them have been harassing me for information. So here it is, guys. I'm telling you, our team. Are we still going to beat you? All right. Right. So Matthew Nandu is the man I'm looking forward to as much as Bishop. I think that these guys deliver, we win games. That's the way I see it. Johan Lane, those guys deliver, we win games. Shaqiri Paris, will he be the opening batsman? Will it be Johnson? I think it will be Paris, honestly, because he's done so in the South Africa series. No scores to his name, but that's the thing about under 19. Not necessarily the scores not there, but the coaches and will be seeing things that we are not seeing in terms of developing. Is he still progressing? Shiva Sanka is a late addition from Trinidad, pacer. So another pace option at the top there, and to end off with Isai. Is it Isai? Somebody tell me that. Isai Thorne. This is the guy. He's 17 years old and his pace is up. I'm hearing 83 kilometers per hour. Am I saying the right thing? Did I write it down? I'm hearing this guy's pace is up at 17. I'm hearing this is one for the future. I looked at it. I couldn't really tell the pace, but the ball's coming onto the bat. I'll just say that. All right. So this is a guy that I am very excited to see. I'm excited to see the Pacers, Thorne and Lane. Will they open the bowling, or will it be Sanka and McKenny, Clark in that mix. So those are the four main pacers we're seeing there. All right. And we've got Mahes as probably a main spinner. Nandu as a guy who can do it in the middle. And we've got Carmichael in a bowling all-rounder role. I think those are the main guys. We've got the batting all-rounders, as I showed you, and we've got our bowling all-rounders in the middle. That wraps up the team, Marshall. There's so much more I still want to explain, but I think I got it there. If there's any questions,
yeah, for sure. And where do you stand on the? Because there was one point someone, in fact, Colin has said it here. So I don't believe in these bits and pieces players unless they're like the 2016 team. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to be as harsh as Colin there. Not that we could argue Colin's not being harsh, but when you go back and look at some of these players in the games against South Africa and the England tour, like you've got Akeem bowling overs, you've got Matthew Nandu bowling overs, and you just look at just using those two as an example. Yes, I'm not denying that's a positive. I mean, and by the way, bowling overs and taking wickets. But can you have too many all rounders, or does it not matter as much in an under 19 setting?
You're always going to give guys an opportunity. That's what it's about. That's what a series are about, to see how a guy would go in a game. But it's good to have options. It's good to develop players. But when it comes down to it, you're going to have, it's under 19, you want to give your main bowlers a proper run. Backup bowlers are still going to be backup bowlers.
Yeah, for sure. People, if you've got any questions, do get them in because Dino will try his best. I know Chris, actually, let me get some comments up from Chris. So Chris went to, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 of the under-19 games when they were here in England. So just throwing these up for people. I don't know if Chris is still in the chat. So Chris is just saying Akeem is the most elegant bat from what he saw when West Indies were in England. It's just that he didn't stay long enough. So that kind of hints to your point about 30s and 20s, Dino, and getting a start, but not necessarily kicking on. Where was the other point? And then Chris also saying Lane also hits massive sixes, Pollard style. He found them freakishly easy.
Well, Mash, let me come in on two points that brings up for me. With Lane, I just noticed that we have no tail, right? Lane is the one guy in the end there who can hit the ball he has a high strike rate, right? The thing is, the tail has not wagged at all at any point. So I don't think it will, but if it does, it's going to be Lane, right? So shout out to that, and what we need and what our team is set up to do is make runs in the top 6. Because if we're relying for runs in the end, it comes down to the captain and vice captain in the middle over to hold it together. And we don't really have that much in the tank. So it will be, will we pay extra batsmen or bowlers? I think we have to back our youngsters and go and give the best players their chance to perform. The point before, I just wanted to touch on the preparation. You have to remember there was no under 17 tournament. There was no under 19 tournament. Was it 1 year? Was it 2 years? So we have to go back now to the 2019-20 tournament and the youths that came up from then. Most of these guys are 18, 19 years old. There's a couple of youngsters in there because we haven't had the platform. There was the trial matches. And this is what the point I'm going to bring up on that, Marshall, is, okay, we haven't had the tournaments. How important is that to performing well? All right. We've always had the tournaments. When we won, we had it. But every other year we had it. The under-19 team has progressively gotten more tours over the years since 2016 because of the win and because they identify that tank. And I want to say the high-performance coach Graham West drives that process. And here's the thing. I want to trust these guys that they have identified these guys. I have a quote from Graham West. This was like maybe last year. He said, we are going to have to adopt a customized preparation approach. Now, having worked with these guys, I know what that means. That means more hands-on time with technical coaches like West, like Reefer, who are 2 of the best coaches in the Caribbean for youth coaching.
Pause right there. Right there. No, I'm glad. Right. So, sorry, Dino. I was waiting because I was going to raise this point and you've got there before I could raise it. Floyd Reefer. So, I feel like Floyd doesn't get the respect on his name that he possibly should. Because when it comes to actually having your levels and your certificates and he's as high as they come in the Caribbean. I know he had obviously when Skerritt and Cole came in as Cricket West Indies presidents, and Floyd was given like the senior team World Cup. Now, my criticism of Floyd back then, and I say this with knowing a tiny bit, I'm not pretending like I know a lot. I'm not sure Floyd's expertise works with senior players that have been there and done it. But I think it does work with younger players who need to be nurtured. And it's just interesting to me, and why I stopped you, because you suddenly started talking about Floyd. So what's your view on Floyd Reefer and his role in all this process as well?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying there, I've heard that being said as well. When under 19 guys are in part of this camp or in the 2 years of coming through the system to get in this, their minds are, like I say, like a sponge. They're open to anything. Everything the direction you point them in, they're going full speed ahead. So you want to get the best for these guys, when they go forward, that changes. Hetmeyer is an example, that changes. I'd like to see the processes that he did in the under 19 processes. Does he still do those things today? And this is the things that are ingrained. When you have guys like Floyd and West, they will be said, this is the way you approach your career in this aspect. They're giving you the off the field and on the field roadmap or guide map to say, this is what you need to do. So any single person in that process, you ask any youngster, he's going to say, my mind has been blown since I've been in the under 19. I did not know cricket was like this. I'm sure that's what you're going to hear from our guys, especially, right? Because the coaches are that good at, and they're perfect for this level at doing that. I would like to see this approach filter in a bit more to the senior guys, not necessarily take over, but you got to stick to the basics. And our guys at the under 19 stick to the basics. They will give 100%. There's no doubt that these guys will give 100%. You will see pure energy and effort. It is what it is.
Most definitely. There's a question I was going to ask you, and here we go. Who's this? Roy says, I think this must be about Floyd. He's very softly spoken, but I think he understands the modern logistics of what's expected at the highest level of cricket. What I would say to that, Roy, is I wonder how much this is maybe what I'm about to say is possibly a topic for a different podcast on a different day. But I just wonder how much the mindset in the Caribbean is, you can't tell me anything. Not about Floyd specifically. I mean, in general, with think about how many coaches we've had in the Caribbean from abroad and at home. And I just wonder sometimes if the mindset is that if you don't like the person's methods, you're just not listening. Even if that person has something, I don't know. I didn't like I say this is maybe a topic for another day, and this is about the under 19s. This is about the under 19s.
I'll tell you, Mash, that would not happen at the under 19 level. I could safely say that it has not been happening. It won't happen, and if it does, your own teammates are going to pull you up on it. What I've been hearing from the guys in the team is that it's definitely a family unit. At that under 19 group is always like that. You have to rely on each other and play as a team to win. So someone mentioned the fielding. I'm sure they will be up for it. I've even heard when I was there, Jimmy Adams used to come in and try to give a little fielding tips. And if you remember Kaimani Melius, some acrobatic catches, if you remember those, I'm going to have to give Jimmy Adams a little bit of credit for that, because he had them diving around in camps and stuff like that. He even wearing a different helmet. All right, but a different cap. Sorry, but yeah.
What? Given our group, because I actually think we've got the most difficult group compared to some of the. Well, I just think it's the most difficult group. You can't judge a team based on their name, but at the same time, there are 3 clear full member nations, and therefore you have to assume full member structures within our group. So you got Australia, Sri Lanka, us, and then Scotland. It is conceivable that we don't even get out the group, and like I say, it's a World Cup, so I'm not really big on the whole make a prediction about what will or won't happen, because you don't know till you know. I never saw the senior side getting bowled out for 55 in the opening game in the World Cup. You don't know until you see it. But I don't think it's going to be very easy per se for us to even get out of the group, much less anything else in the World Cup. Or what's your views on that, Dino?
Yeah, our group is Australia, Sri Lanka, Scotland, and we're expected to beat Scotland. I think we should beat Scotland, even from what I've seen and seen the results. I think, but it's not going to be taken for granted, and it's in between two games. Australia have not played together an official youth ODI, so I think that gives us an advantage actually over Australia. We saw them turn up today, or was it yesterday? I don't want to say the wrong thing, but the team has just come to the Caribbean. They've got one game under their belt. Are they hitting the ground running? I think it gives us an opportunity against Australia. If we start well, we can give them a scare and throw them off their high horse. And I think that's the way in. The last game Australia played was West Indies, and that was in 2020. All right. And West Indies, we played them twice in that tournament. We did beat them in the opening game. All right. So, you never know. I mean, a completely different team, but I'm just saying, Australia, I don't think, have they been together as a unit? The scary thing of Australia is when I've been looking at their players, these guys have been to tours in India and tours all over the world. And these guys have been playing second division cricket in a top system, right? They've been playing reserve or cricket and that sort of thing. So these guys have been continually playing cricket. That's the scary thing. It's if they can adapt to our conditions and if we can use our conditions against Australia, that's going to be key. Sri Lanka are so scary. Sri Lanka have beaten Bangladesh 5-0 at home. They've beaten England at home. They've lost one game to England at home. They've went to the Asia Cup. They beat Pakistan. They lost to India in the final. Pakistan Sri Lanka and they beat England comprehensively. The same England that trashed us. Yes, different conditions, but Sri Lanka trashed England a couple of times, and they're in our group. So that's two extremely strong oppositions. I'm going to say Australia and Sri Lanka are favorites to go very far in this tournament and up there with India. All right, so
but the reason why I say that is because I really hope. Say the boys crash out in the group, right? I really hope they don't get a cussing. I hope there's a modicum of realism about expectations, and because I can already foresee what happens, right? They come out the group, they win one game, they beat Scotland, and then everybody uses it to go on whatever particular agenda they've got. So don't be surprised, Dino. I'm sure you're going to agree with me here. Don't be surprised if if we don't get out the group, people go, you see, our cricket's not moving forward, and it just goes for whatever, it will suit whatever particular agenda and politics people want to go with in the Caribbean, as opposed to seeing this as part of a process. Now, this is why it was crucial that you mentioned how little cricket they've played. Yes, everyone can talk about going to England for 6 games and South Africa coming here for, I can't remember, 4 games, and then the warm up. But the reality is, if you've got a squad that on paper isn't as strong as the people in your group, so in this case Sri Lanka and probably, but we don't know yet, Australia, unless you have a comprehensive program around that squad, you're asking a lot for them to outperform their ability without adequate developmental time. Like, a lot of things have to go in your favor for you to outperform. And remember what you started off the show with. We've not passed 230 in all of these practice games. So let's take that then as the level, the ceiling. For them to suddenly outperform that at a World Cup, a lot of things have to go right. And
I've seen it happen. It's happened before, Marshall. It's happened in the 2016. It's happened in other teams, and it usually does happen. Teams usually perform better than they do on the world stage. You really see that. Sometimes it's not. Teams are so mixed up coming into it that it really is not a good gauge. Yes, we lose, win, stuff like that. But the true gauge is now when you are on the world stage, and this is the gauge. We've been preparing to gauge ourselves, Some teams have already gauged themselves, and they know, they can offer a guy a first class contract before this World Cup even kicks off.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So we are gauging our guys now on the world stage, like we do with the senior team and other things, right? But it's not, if we lose all the games, it's not a failure. The true, and Rahul Dravid set a good precedent in India where he said, "I don't care if we win; it's about development," and that's true. But they win most of the games, so it's easy for him to say that.
It's a fortunate position to
Yeah.
make that statement.
Right.
To make that statement from. Can I just say something though, Dino?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people will benefit from your explanation to this next question, if you can explain it. Give me a Trini name in that list, in that World Cup team, a Trini player.
Is it Shiva Sankar
Right.
or
Okay.
Mahesh, maybe? Yeah.
Right. Whichever one of them, right?
Yeah.
Now, you go to an under-19 World Cup, let's say it's Sankar, right?
Mm-hmm.
You come back now from the World Cup, and let's assume that 2022 domestic cricket comes back. How, and this is actually, yes, we're talking about the under-19 World Cup, but I actually think this next question is so crucial to connecting the dots. The other day, I was tweeting out of frustration. I made this, I think you liked it, so you must have seen it. It was a tweet about Gooley, right? Gooley was in that 2016 under-19 World Cup. That was 6 years ago, Dino. The man has only played 4 first-class matches since that World Cup. I'm not saying Gooley's a world beater. I'm not saying that. But what on earth goes on between the under-9, and use Trinidad as an example. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah.
What on earth goes on in the under-9, sorry, what am I saying, the under-19, to connect the dots between age-level tournaments and senior cricket? In your opinion, should Gooley by now have played much more matches for Trinidad?
All right.
I'm coming to you. Don't worry. I want you to go in on this one. That's why I'm prepping you to go properly in. Yeah. How could he have only played 4 matches in 6 years at the first class level? And if he's only played 4 matches in 6 years, it's telling us 2 things. Either the system doesn't work, he's not good enough, or we don't know how to transition our players properly when they show promise at the under-19 level to then bring them through properly into the senior team. And as much as we started at the top of the show talking about Alzari and Shimron and so on, and Chemo and things, so on and so forth, none of them have fully established themselves, but probably should have done, given their years of experience. So what is the domestic set? And Trinidad probably has one of the better systems in the Caribbean. So if it can't work in Trinidad, how's it supposed to work in Jamaica? Let's just take Jamaica or something like that. Now, that's a lot to unpick, Dino, there, because my concern is this. Say somebody performs well now in this tournament. Let's say Teddy Bishop has a good tournament. And by good, I mean 2 350s, international commentators like this Teddy Bishop, he's a talent. When Teddy Bishop then goes home, what do you want to bet, Dino, that 3 years from now he's played 1 first-class game only?
Highly. Right. Brilliant stuff, because the gauge for success at this level is how many guys transition from this into first class or list A cricket. I wouldn't even go international. I would say get into your first class team, your list A team. And you can check how many guys over the years have done it. The 2016 group, like we started with, was a rare occasion where most of the guys are there right now. We'll go to Gooley. I was there when Gooley was he did well in club cricket in Trinidad. So he was there in the trials, got picked in the squad, but couldn't get in the team because the team is packed with guys returning from tests like Ramdin and Mohammed and these guys. So he can't get into the team. And he's not even contracted. So how do you get into the team over the contracted guys?
Good point. Yeah.
And then when he did get the look in, he failed. And then, it's you get a look in like that. He's not expecting it. A guy gets injured, you're in, you get a look in, you fail in 1 inning, the game ends before you bat again, and that's it. Season's done. Before you know it, you don't even know what happened. You got one look in and you don't even know what happened. So, that's how rare the opportunities are. If you make a 50 or you make 100 in that one chance you get, if you do it, you get it. Mark Dial would tell you, I'm just saying the Trini guys that I know, that Mark Dial has said something similar publicly. I remember he came in a 4-day game, had a big go opening the batting, And I could just see the coach pulling his hair out, but Mark hasn't had a look in after that. So you really have to how do you do it now? We've had no cricket. So Gully's been putting his hand up, but our domestic season is what? 10 4-day games, 10 50-over games, and that's it. And you have 15 contracted guys to play those 20 games. How do we have this? It's a funnel of guys coming into a bottleneck. And you've got a funnel full of Yannick Karaya and Yannick Otley and Phillips and all these guys coming through. And we can't get them in the team, and they can't get into a team, so they're in the US playing cricket.
Boy. And then even actually, let me just bring up this comment here. So the last World Cup, Matthew Ford, Antonio Morris, Naeem Young, but the only one who's now Jaden Seals. Well, he looks like a generational talent. So one first-class game, they noticed him, took him on some West Indies camps. Now he's in the team. But Naeem Young was spoken about like Jaden Seals was spoken about. Now look what's happened to Naeem Young. He's still yet to get into the Barbados team. He plays for Tridents in CPL. But if I'm Naeem Young, I'm not getting in the Barbados team anytime soon. So what am I supposed to do now? You're right, Dino. They have to go to the States and play some club cricket and this, because where else are they going to play cricket? What, they must just play for their club team, in whichever particular country they're in and hope there's a chance? It's I'm not saying the system sets our players up to fail. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is it doesn't help them. It's almost like players have to succeed through, I don't want to say luck, but a certain set of circumstances have to take place. Like, okay, let's look at someone like, perfect example. Josh De Silva wasn't even in an under-19 team. He weren't in one, but a certain set of circumstances have worked out for him, and now all of a sudden he's in the West Indies team, but he hasn't actually gone through the traditional route. And Santoki and I have always said that Josh probably benefited from going to England and playing club cricket, sorting out his game, probably better than if he'd stayed in Trinidad playing for Queen's Park. I think that's his club. Yeah, Queen's Park. And would he necessarily have got into the Trinidad team? Who knows? Maybe actually going to England and honing his game and then coming back as fast-tracked his development. Is that harsh? Is that wrong to say? Is that too simplistic to say?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down, like you say, to the opportunities. And I was alluding to that our first-class season or our territorial seasons are too small. Why can't the Trinidad national team go on tour and tour Netherlands or tour Canada and create opportunities for these guys? You think the senior guys are going to tour Canada? They're going to say, no, thanks. I'm going somewhere else, right? So if you can, in the off season, organize tours like this, we're in the business of cricket, guys. You're a territorial board. Get some cricket going. How 20 matches for the year? That's what you're in charge of? Come on, guys. I know there's grassroots cricket, right? But how much effort goes into that? Let's get Trinidad and Leewards and Windwards playing other teams. Let's like you saw the Ramis Raja suggestion. Let's get a quadrangular series with Canada and USA or something. So our guys who are not contracted can get some games. So we can give Mbeki Joseph and Leonardo Julian and these guys in Trinidad, all the guys from the last under-19 World Cup who we don't hear of anymore. They're begging for opportunities. Hopefully this year when cricket comes back, there can be some new initiatives. Now, you posted something on the Twitter from Trinidad where the under-23 thing is being floated around now to fill that gap, right? Is there going to be a regional under-23? I think it's a good idea. Anything that you're thinking outside the box, you're trying to find a solution, I'm on board with that, right? For me personally, you start an under-23 competition in Trinidad. My concern with that is, yes, it's great. I love that guys will get opportunities, but is the level of coaching going to be good? Is it going to be just guys showing up and just having a laugh? But someone's going to rise to the top of that, and they will get their rewards. So that's the only concern for me, is what quality is there. If the coaching quality is not there, will it just be like a joke thing, like you say?
So listen, boy. Yeah. So much to unpick there, Mr. Lover. I know you've been speaking to me about Damari Benton. I went and looked him up. Yes, he came to England and has done exceptionally well. I forget the team that he's been playing for, the club side in England. But you're right. If he can then go back, and then he can't even get a look in for like I say, I don't think our system is necessarily designed to help players. And like I said, I don't want to say it again, but Jayden Seales is a perfect example. The guy has basically skipped first-class cricket. They've seen him, gone, no, you're too good. And then he just skipped the whole of first-class cricket. Probably will skip, no, he'll play Super 50 and is now just in the West Indies team. And I just wonder going forward if we're going to have to do a bit more like the Jayden Seales, where we identify exceptionally talented youngsters and just say, you know what? Come tour with the West Indies, not to play, but to just come and experience, because we can't guarantee that staying in your country is necessarily going to give you the opportunities when we can clearly see you have the raw talent and ability. And that's where I go back to your point that you raised, because ultimately it all comes down then to coaching. Who's getting what guarantee have we got that the coaching would even be good enough to help that player? And I think Shane Jones made a comment, which I'll try and bring up. Where is it? He's made two, in fact. So Shane was on the I don't know if you caught him, Dino. I think you came on late, so you might see him. Yeah. Shane, if it's who I think it is, from Barbados, saying the transition from under-19 to first class is a bigger jump than most people think. Not only do you have to take into account the players currently playing first class, like you were saying, Dino, but also the late developers. So that's the other thing. Yeah. Late developing. I actually would argue, Dino, that Mark Dayal's a late developer. But the problem is, I feel like, I know you and I have spoken about maybe trying to reach out to Mark, but I almost feel like Mark's now being pigeonholed. And even though he's developing now, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever has the levers of power in Trinidad are like, well, he's 28 years old now, he's just a 2020 slugger. But the guy has actually got an all-round game. But it wouldn't surprise me if nobody's really looking at that. I could be wrong, Dino, but that's just the impression I get. And before you answer that, Shane has also said, good point from Dino. But let's also remember that all countries in the Caribbean, as I don't know what that says, as SIDS. I don't. That must stand for something. But I don't know what. Sending teams on tours like that are not at the fore. Yeah, you're right, Shane. They're not at the forefront of government spending. It goes back to the finances issues, sponsorship, etc. Which is why I'd be more. That's why I would more prefer the under-23s option. But again, as Dino says, would people even take it serious? Would they take it like a club game or something? I don't. It's who knows. So many questions. But Dino, anything you want to say on all of that?
Definitely. Look, the countries in the Caribbean with the tours and stuff, sponsorship is needed, yes, but that's the business of cricket, guys. You're in the business. You want to have as much games, get your facilities used and stuff. I wouldn't go too much into that, but that's their job, right? They know that. Your job is not to manage what you have. You have to try to build it. Like we identified just now, there's a bottleneck of players coming through. And what's going to happen to that bottleneck? We need to find a solution to that. Yes, under 23 is fine, but Mark Dial is beyond under 23, but yet he's putting his hand up. Will Mark Dial get an opportunity to play Super 50? It probably won't happen because there's not enough opportunities. It comes back to another thing, a domestic T20, like the Caribbean T20 again. The guys need more games, and there's a demand for more cricket as well, especially white ball cricket. So if we can have our regional teams playing games in the off season, or even playing each other in the off season, why not? Why not have Grenada play a Trinidad team, or send a Trinidad team to the Leeward Island competition? Not necessarily your contracted guys, but send your guys who you have, the Jed Bullies and the Mark Dials, and these guys who are saying, hey, I want a chance, and are putting their hands up.
Boy, listen, I sometimes feel like we say ideas that, and obviously everyone will always say, particularly people with their hands on the money, will say you think it's that easy, etc., etc. But I agree with you, Dino. People can suggest ideas, but we can't do it for people. Like, my whole thing is, if something isn't working, why are you doing the same thing? That's my that's my whole thing. Think outside the box. We've got enough proof that what's happening isn't working. So what are we doing to change that? And not to labor the point, but again, going back to that Bravo interview that he did on Sportsmax, Bravo made this point where he said he took the Trinidad president, and he must have been talking about Bassarat, because I don't know who else he was talking about. And he said he took him to the facilities at Couva and said, look at this. This is the same nonsense facilities that I had when I was a young boy coming through the system. And that, to me, yes, that was about facilities and toilets and this, that, and the other. But I don't think people fully understood the point Bravo was making there. If that's what's going on with the basics, the mere basics, what's going on with the actual real cricketing structures? Clearly, nothing. Because if you can't even fix those little things that don't even cost that much money, you're not going to do nothing about the big systems. So, you know,
their resources are stretched because it's not really run like a business. Our boards aren't really run like a business. They're just run to facilitate the 2 or 3 initiatives that they have for the year. Why not add a 4th initiative? But and manage it properly, which is extra tours and stuff. The facilities are there, resources are strapped. And before any board can complain, how come the school cricket in each country can organize their own tours and get sponsors and stuff like that, and have ongoing tours? How come the clubs here in Trinidad, I don't know about the other countries, have to find their own funding and send their teams on tour? How come they can do these things and they have to find that money themselves? These are the initiatives that our boards should be doing to get inter-island clubs play and inter-school clubs play. I know Barbados is big on that. And we're on under 19 here. So the inter-schools tournament has not happened. So, these were tournaments that have a lasting impact on players, especially in Barbados. Players are so proud of it. Or if a Caribbean team if a Trinidadian team goes to Barbados and wins that tournament, you'll never, ever hear the end of that. Right? So, these things happen all the time in schools cricket and in youngsters. And I have to mention that I shout out to all the parents of the Caribbean who still believe in cricket, who still believe in sending their children to play cricket as an option of a professional career. You are brave, my people, and I respect you, and I hope the best for your children, because that's what's driving this. All right. And if we can't capitalize on these parents and these children and help them achieve their dreams and not get sponsors on board to do that, then are we doing the right things? This is the youth cricket we're talking about. This is what's going to build the sport. You have to get more opportunities for young players. Slapping an under 23 on is just like building a new building, and it just gets run down after 5 years.
Yeah,
right?
It's a bolt-on idea to fix something that's right. It's like putting a plug on a leak whilst another leak is still going on somewhere else. I mean,
when you put the one last thing, sorry, March.
Yeah, no,
go on. You put the region, if you put the Guyanese coach as head of the Guyanese under 23, then we're going somewhere. If you give them the same resources as a senior team, then you're talking about it. But it's a good initiative. Sorry.
No, 100%. And I think if I remember rightly, on Monday's live, Windies Cricket was making a point about. I'm paraphrasing. I could actually have it wrong, but I think they were making a point about how primary school cricket is better organised than like your under 19s cricket, for etc. And just making the point that there are elements of cricket in the region that work, but it's not being replicated. And then that's why you then end up losing players as they go through the system, because it's not a cohesive. It's certainly not cohesive across the Caribbean. It might be cohesive in odd countries and islands here and there, but it's not cohesive throughout the Caribbean. But ultimately, people, the first game starts in 2 days' time. On Friday, West Indies will play Australia. I think it's in Guyana. Let me just double check that I'm right in saying that. West Indies will play Australia in Guyana. So the 3 games, if you don't know. So Friday we play Australia. Next Monday, we play Scotland in St. Kitts. And then on the next Thursday, we play Sri Lanka. and then we'll know what's happening after that in terms of whether we go into the Super League or plate tournament or whatever it might be. But I hope you've enjoyed that, and Dino's kind of giving you a rundown of who we've got in the squad and what we can possibly expect. And, just like with the women and just like with the senior men's team, we got a rally. I'm looking... I can't even tell you what the visuals are going to look like for this competition. I can't even promise you nothing in terms of how good the visuals are going to be. It's an ICC international tournament. So I would like to believe this is going to actually get the proper coverage. Some of the warm-up stuff has left a lot to be desired in terms of information that's coming out from the warm-ups and et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like to think that by the time the tournament actually starts, the ICC are treating this like an actual international tournament with proper full coverage and commentators and this, that, and the other. But we wait to see. We wait to see what it all looks like. But, rally around the under-19s. Obviously, as well, nearly forgot the second ODI versus Ireland is on tomorrow. Nearly forgot that was even happening. So rally around them tomorrow as well. Maybe Jaden Seals will make his ODI debut. Let's see how that goes. And, yeah. I think that's kind of been us. I don't see... there's some points being made in the chat, but I think we've been going on for a while, So that's kind of been us. Look out for some more content as ever. Like I say, Dino will be back. There are games in Trinidad, so Dino is keeping out a keen eye on what else is going on in the tournament, and look out for him on some more shows, some more lives. Looking at the under-19s and some other things as well. We've got some ideas planned, so look out for all of that. Any last words, Dino?
Yeah. Always a pleasure. But thanks to everyone who came out. I really appreciate you guys. I've been reading the comments the whole time, and I still will revisit it when the replay is available. I might still watch it. But just on I know I've been on the latter half of the show maybe a bit critical about our youth systems, yet despite all of these challenges, we still churn out proper cricketers. We like Marshall said, we still churned out a Jaden Seals, and every under-19 system, we at least get some guys out of it. So let's just, we just want to get more of them out of it. And if this team can be successful, even if we go down into the plate, I want to see us dominate the plate with the lesser teams. Look, I will say, like Marsh said, let's rally same way. I really believe we have an opportunity here. We're at home. It's the first time us as fans with the TV get to see the games. The last couple World Cups were at some ungodly hours for us. I know, but I was there and nobody was watching. All right, it was happening after the point. But now we get to see it home on Friday. It's going to be a big day. I'm looking forward to it. Australia, West Indies. It should be. I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie, but I want our guys to just go out and give 100 and give these guys a scare and hopefully pip this game, and that could throw things off. So that's it for me. Thanks for the time, Marshall. I really appreciate it, and I hope I gave a clearer picture of our guys. And going forward. Of course, man.
Yeah. And everyone remember, you can see Dino's handle. Make sure as ever, after this is done or during it, if you've already done it, follow Dino at Crick Dinos. You can see it on the screen. I don't need to spell it out. Go and find him, follow him to go and get some gems from him on Twitter and find out some more and question him and this, that, and the other. And as ever, Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm sure if you just type in Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you'll find us nowadays. And our website, www.caribbeancricketpodcast.com. We're out, but of course we will be back with some more insight later this week. Take care of yourselves in the meantime. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.